Hello everybody, it's Tarun. Welcome to your 27th tutorial in the CSS for presentation course. In this tutorial, I'll start with styling forms, but before that, I want to tell you something about SAS and LAS. Okay, I hope that you are getting used to writing CSS rules the regular way, but there are some supercharged alternatives I want you to know about. Finding the normal CSS syntax repetitive developers Hampton Catlin and Nathan Wiesenborn created a new style sheet syntax that takes advantage of the time saving power tools of scripting language. They called this syntax SAS, which is syntactically awesome style sheets. A later release known as SCSS, which stands for Sassy CSS. Okay, and it is based on original intended SAS syntax but allows normal CSS syntax to be mixed in. In SAS style documents, you can do things that you would do in scripting, such as setting a variable name for a value you plan to use frequently. For example, O really uses the same shade of red repeatedly on their side so that they could create a variable named O really red and use the variable name for color values. That way, if they need to tweak the shade later, they only need to change the variable value in one place. So you can even reuse whole set of styles using a convention called mix-ins. Okay, and in addition, SAS also allows nested rules, handles math operations, and adjusts colors mathematically. Just to name a few functions borrowed from scripting languages. Browsers do not know how to interpret the syntax of a .sass or .scss file, so you need to use the SAS compiler, which is written in Ruby, which runs on the server. The compiler converts the SAS file to standard CSS syntax before it is delivered to the browser. LAS is another CSS syntax with scripting-like abilities. It is very similar to SAS, but it lacks a few features and has minor differences in syntax. For instance, variable in LAS are indicated by @ symbol instead of $symbol in SAS. Okay. The other major difference is that a LAS file is processed into a regular CSS syntax by JavaScript instead of Ruby. Note that compiling a LAS file into a CSS processor is processor intensive and would bog down a browser. For that reason, it is best to do the conversion to CSS before sending it to the server. So, one recommended tool for doing so is CodeKit. Okay, but there are others out there. So now we'll move forward to the topic which we'll start in this tutorial, which is styling forms. Web forms can look a bit hodgepodge right out to the box with no styles applied. So you will certainly want to give them a more professional appearing using CSS. Not only do they look better, but studies show that forms are much easier and faster to use when labels and inputs are lined up nicely. In this section, we'll look at how various form elements can be styled and how to align form elements without using tables. Now I'm going to lie. Okay, styling forms is somewhat of a dark art due to its variety of ways in which browsers handle form elements, but the efforts are well worth it to make your forms look as professional as the rest of your site. Okay, so I'll just show you one figure now where you will understand what I'm trying to say and what is the difference between a professional form and a normal form. So these are the two forms with similar form entries. Okay, but the first one here on the left, it is a simple one, and the second one here is good looking one, professional one. Okay, which is done with the help of style sheets only. Okay, there are not any special properties for styling forms. Just use the standard color, background, font, border, margin and padding properties that you have learned in the previous units. The following is a quick rundown of the type of things that you can do for each form control type. The first is text inputs, which consists of text, password, email, search, telephone number and URL. Change the appearance of the box itself with width, height, background color, background image, border, border radius, margin, padding and box shadow. You can also style the text inside the entry field with color and various font properties. So now the text area element. This can be styled uh, in the same way as text entry fields. Text area elements uses a monospace font by default. Uh, Monospace font by default. So you will need to change that to match your other text entry fields because there are multiple lines. You may also specify a line height. Note that some browsers display a handle on the lower right corner of the text area box that makes it resizable, but you can turn it off by adding the style resize to none. Then we can do something about button inputs, which consist of submit, reset and button. Apply any of the box properties to submit and reset buttons, which consist of width, height, border, background, margin, padding, and box shadow. Note, however, the buttons are set to be border box sizing model by default. So width and height values apply border to border. Most browsers also add a padding by default, which can be overwritten by your own padding value. You can also style the text that appears on the buttons. Then there are radio and checkbox buttons. The best practice for radio and checkbox buttons is to leave them alone. At best, Internet Explorer will show a little color around the box, which looks awkward. So if you are tenacious, you could always use JavaScript to change the buttons altogether. Then we have drop down and select menus. You can specify the width and height of a select element, but note that it uses the border box sizing model by default. Some browsers allow you to apply color, background color, and font properties to option, but it's probably best to leave them alone to be rendered by the browser and operating system. Then you have field sets and legends. You can treat a field set as any other element box, adjusting the border, background, margin, and padding. Turning the border off entirely is one way to keep your form looking tidy while preserving semantics and accessibility. By default, legend elements are positioned on an intent, centered vertically with the top border of the field set, and unfortunately, browsers make them difficult to change. Some developers use a span or bold element, B element, within the legend and apply styles to the contained element for more predictable results. Now we know that what we can do with style, we can do to style individual controls, but the larger goal is to make the form more organized and easier to use. In the past, we used tables for the task, but it is preferable to stick with CSS for matters of presentation, such as alignment. So I am going to walk you through the writing of styles for the form, which I showed you in the last figure, and take you step by step from point A to point P. Okay, so first of all, we'll talk about the markup. So here is the markup for the contest entry form. Each question in the form is contained in a list item and labels are provided for all controls. There are also two field sets uh, and grouping the radio buttons and checkboxes. So I'll just let me just show you the markup now. Okay, just a second. Okay, so this is your whole form. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in our web page now. Okay, you can, I'm just going to show you it line by line, so you can, whenever you are watching this tutorial, you can go ahead and uh, copy it or take it from there, so you can use it in your web page. Okay, so you can pause here and note down this. So I'm just going to move it in our web page now. I'm going to remove all the things from our web page now. Okay, and I'm also going to remove the styles, all the styles. So let's save it and see what happens in our browser. So you can see that it is the form which we saw in the figure. So let's move forward step by step. Let's start with the step one, which is adding basic styles. The first set of styles takes care of some basic document styling, including the body, H2, and some standard UL styles to remove the bullets. I have also created a rule for the form element, giving it a width, background color, rounded corners, and the shadow, and some padding. Because I know I am going to be floating a lot of its content, I have also added overflow hidden as a float container. Similarly, the ULLI rule indicates a clear both declaration, okay, and declaration in anticipation of floats. To save a little space, only the form related styles are presented here. So I'll just show you the style now. So this is the style, okay, which I was talking about. So now I'm going to use it in our web page only. Okay, so now let's save it and see the change in our browser. Okay, you can see that uh, it is somewhat like it was in our, what you can say, the figure only, but the bullets are not removed yet. So I'm going to see what happened here. Okay, so let me just check to see that where now what is the error that the bullets are not removed. So I had to add one more style, which is list style to none, to remove the bullets. Then we'll move forward to the next step, which is aligning labels and inputs. Now we are getting to the good stuff. And notice in the after shot, okay, in the figure which I showed you, that all of the labels and inputs are aligned in neat columns. To make that happen, give the label element a specific weight, float them to the left, and then align the label text to the right so that they are near their respective inputs. A little margin on the right of the label elements create a nicer gutter between the columns. You should be able to see all the styles at work in the label style rule, which I am going to show you. So this will be the style which I will be using for label. Here I have floated it to left and aligned the text to the right. So let me just use it in the browser. So now let's save and see what happens in our web page. Okay, some error happened. Let me just see. So you can see that it is all right now. The text input and the text area is given width and height values as well as a simple 1 pixel border. Okay, here you can see. And in addition, similar font properties are applied to both. I have removed the ability to resize the text area element by setting the resize uh, to none, which I will be doing now. So the form will look a little better with the next style rule which I am going to apply. So this is the style rule which I am going to apply. Here I have resized to none and I have added the border of 1 pixel. So let's save it and not save this it here. Let's use it in our web page. Okay, now let's save it and see the change in our browser. Okay, so you can see that it is like this. So this is all from my side in this tutorial. In the next tutorial I'll start with step 3, which is fixing field set and minor labels. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next tutorial.